Hey guys, it's Adam. I'm excited to be talking with Jill Rowley. She's the Chief Growth Officer at Marketo. A lot of you know her from LinkedIn and other places. And I was going to talk to Jill about social selling and who's doing that well, but I really, Jill, just want to ask you about this role that you have because it's so unique, and the way that you and Marketo came together on this is super interesting. And I know you actually didn't want a boss when you came into this job, so can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure, Adam. I'm psyched to be having the conversation with you too, and glad that we changed topics. So I joined Marketo about 6 months ago, and I've known Marketo since they were birthed because I was a quota carrying sales rep at Eloqua from 2002 to 2012 when Eloqua was acquired by Oracle. A little over halfway into my tenure at Eloqua, this company called Marketo started to appear on our radar. And I immediately knew it was a different kind of competitor. The fact that Silicon Valley based was one, but the way that they were positioning their offering was extremely compelling.
Yep.
So I was arch enemies with Marketo for years. And in fact, it was so severe that my daughters, and they were young at the time, were not allowed to wear purple. There was no purple in our house, Adam, like none. You could not wear purple. And fast forward to Eloqua being acquired by Oracle and my heart being broken through that because, at Eloqua, we had built a culture of customer centricity.
Yep.
And I had seen a number of our customers be acquired by Oracle. And I just knew what was going to happen, like a SaaS business where you really have to understand the persona and the profession of marketing. That's not who Oracle is. So I knew that things would change dramatically for our customers.
Yep.
And so I made a pivot to social selling and really started to grow that as a category, as a thing, right? Okay, so what is this thing called social selling? And I did a lot of work in that area. And in fact, Marketo had hired me back in early 2017 to do a webinar on social selling. And it was a thought leadership thing that Marketo wanted to offer to their community. The registration to attend and the feedback from that webinar was off the charts. And so I said to Marketo, well, you have your big annual conference coming up. Why don't you have me speak at Marketing Nation Summit on social selling?
Yeah.
And they were like, brilliant.
So you started warming up to the purple, but it's still crazy, right? Because you're a C-level executive. You have a massive influence over lots of parts of the business, but you have zero direct reports. Your role is so unique. And the fact that you were willing to sort of, have a boss and come work for an organization. It's like, that to me is just so improbable. And now you're rocking the purple over there too. How was Steve and Marketo thinking about this role, and how was it sort of right for you to be able to come into a role like this? Like just that idea of a high level, influencer, individual contributor is so unique and interesting. I want to know how that actually happened.
So Steve and I met at Marketing Nation Summit face-to-face for the first time. And then a couple weeks later, we had lunch. And he brought Greg Wolf, his COO. And I was blown away that Steve clearly had done a significant amount of research. And he knew who I was. He knew my history. He knew my background. And he knew what I was capable of doing from a market evangelism, and he knew I had a big network community. I don't like to say following because I'm not a rock star. So it's not a following because I don't want people to follow me. I want to be with them in this movement. So he knew me, and that day he asked me to join Marketo as the chief marketing evangelist. And I said, no way. I mean, I didn't want to be an employee. I get fired every time I'm an employee at a company. So I'm done getting fired. I don't need that anymore.
So
And
he
I had my
actually
own.
knew, he already had envisioned, hey, Jill, I'm not coming to you to be VP of this function or that function. He'd already been breaking out of that thinking of like, I need somebody on my executive team who's horizontal, who's a market expert, who's an influencer. Um, do you think other CEOs are thinking like that when they build their executive team, or was that something new that you were hearing when this kind of came about?
No, no, I don't think CEOs are thinking it. I think if there is someone like this within an organization, it's at a very low level. It's at a sort of stuffed over to the side off of marketing, and it's more of a marketing tactic than a strategic hire
Right.
who has a lens of how the industry has evolved and a strong vision of where it's all going. And so, it really is to Steve's credit that he recognized how strategic of a role, it's not a job and it's not a function, it's a role,
Mm-hmm.
and how strategic that was. So it is, it's Steve, I liken it to, my husband knows me incredibly well, and he should after 20 some years of being together.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe how well Steve embraced all the risk that comes along with bringing me on his team.
Yeah.
Because there is risk, because I say it like it is. Although I'm very much a fan of Purple now, we're not perfect. And I will absolutely talk about our imperfections. And when we have unhappy customers, I don't run out of the building. I run into the building to rescue them. And so a lot of folks try to sweep it under the rug and make it go away. And I bring it right to the attention of everyone who needs to be aware.
That's so interesting. So, the way I think about it is like your experience as a quota carrying rep on the front lines, like building the social selling playbook yourself and then evangelizing that and all that you did. It almost makes you like this amplifier for the voice of the customer in the market back into the organization. That's super unique. And the other question I have for you on this is like, okay, for the people who are out there who are quota bearing reps and they're killing it and they love it and they're creative and they're unique and they're breaking through and they focus on their customer success and they do all the things that are amazing that great reps do. And they're like, I don't want to be a sales manager and I don't want to sell forever. Is this like a path that you think those people could go down, like in different capacities inside organizations where they could, like you said, fill a role, not a function, not a job?
Absolutely. I definitely think this is where it's going. And with the gig economy and it not being about, paying your dues and climbing the corporate ladder, it really, the world is a lot flatter, and the corporate world is a lot flatter now. And influence matters. Mm-hmm. If you look at who we trust as consumers, we trust people like us. We trust our peers. We trust our family members. And I am a peer and a family member to Marketing Nation, to the B2B marketing and sales world. I don't put myself above anybody else. I'm one of them. And I think that, I think it is. I think this is absolutely, you have to be a real expert in your customer's world. So what I would say to folks who don't want to just climb the manager, director, VP ladder, and you want to have influence over a market, then you have to be in that market. You have to become, I say I'm a sales professional trapped in a marketer's body, because my buyers are marketers and I've become one of them. Does that make sense?
Totally. But it has to be deep and authentic, like passion and engagement in that market, right? It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to academically study this market and then I can play this role. But what you're saying is you're so deep and entrenched in it that you can actually be the outsider coming back into the executive team and having a big influence on the inside of the company.
100%. And I loved when you said kind of that voice of the customer, because that's exactly what I do. There's nothing more than I enjoy than engaging with our customers and our future advocates. So, right now we have a big opportunity to bring over a lot of that Eloqua customer base to Marketo. Mm-hmm. A lot has changed over there. A lot has changed at Marketo, right? So Marketo is not the company it used to be 2 years ago. Steve Lucas, our CEO, has been in the role over 18 months now. His entire executive leadership team is new. There's only one person on his ELT that was at Marketo before he joined.
Wow.
So the strategy of the business is certainly we want to grow revenue, increase bookings, improve EBITDA, which we have improved tremendously. But the mission of the company is around the marketer. It's around empowering the marketer to do more, to be fearless, to engage with their customers. And so what drives us at Marketo is really what drove us pre-Oracle acquisition at Eloqua. So the cultural transformation that's really happening at Marketo is incredible. And at the same time, going up market into the enterprise, which is the market that Eloqua owned. So it's a fascinating time to be on Steve's leadership team. And when I call him boss, he doesn't like it. And I remember when I started, I'm like, in my first day, because I text him often and I just thank him for the opportunity, because I want to remind him that I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in this position. And the first time I did it, he's like, I'm not your boss, I'm your colleague. And I went back with the song "You Don't Own Me." You don't own me, and Google it. So and I would play that every day when I first started at Marketo on my way to the gym, because I never wanted it to be like, nobody owns me. You don't own me.
Yeah.
But because I'm authentically here because I want to be here, but you don't own me.
And that's kind of part and parcel to the whole view of you playing the voice of the customer and the market expert, right? Because we don't own our customers. I mean, I think in SaaS, we talk a lot about account control is a great asset. And I'm sure, Vista thinks from a financial point of view, having all these customers is a great thing and subscription based, but customers have infinite choice. So in a lot of ways, this is just more you reflecting that, which I love. And that's so compelling.
Well, I'm fighting right now for funding for a hard to fund initiative. And it shouldn't be hard to fund because it is the right thing for the business. But we have a financial plan of revenue, bookings, and EBITDA. And a strategy was to ensure that our enterprise customers do have all of the support and services, not from a technical perspective, but from an engagement strategy that we will significantly invest in and partner with our partner ecosystem. And that we won't build internally at Marketo a huge professional services organization with a lot of, technical resources. And I'm fighting that. I'm actually fighting that. I love our partners, and one of my mantras is #never-sell-alone. And it's #partner-to-win, because I believe in the partner ecosystem and it's a really important aspect. But if we don't have that inside of Marketo at scale, and it doesn't reflect our growing customer base, and in particular our growing customer base in the enterprise, then we don't then know ourselves at a level what it takes to make those customers successful. And I think we should develop the recipe, all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could put the ingredients together in a little bit of a different way, but we should have that. That should be the Marketo way.
Yeah.
And our partners embrace it. And we take the input and feedback from our partners, and it becomes the Marketing Nation way. It's that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think that just highlights another good example that you're uniquely positioned and the way you and Steve have set this up to do different things. Like what other functional leader or what other person could bring that perspective and drive that initiative from the point of view that you are. So I think this is so great, Jill. I'm so glad you took a little time to talk. I'm glad we went on this track because I'm trying to look at like what wins in B2B, and this role and the way you've set this up and your history of getting here is, I think, so unique and such a great example that whether you're a sales rep or a CEO or whoever, I think we can learn a lot. So thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, thanks for really encouraging us to pivot from the social selling conversation to this conversation, because we don't hear enough of, individual contributor to C-suite executive.
Totally.
We don't see those stories.
Totally.
So I'm excited to share. Thanks, Adam.
And you're a great example. So I think we're all probably interested to keep following this, the next 6 months, 12 months, where it goes. So thank you again, and can't wait to watch this evolve.
Cheers.